try to shorten a little bit this story a little, and trying to think on ways because he goes over for 30-something years. So I'm like,
Oh man, well, and like I said, I'd love to have you on again, and in fact, maybe I can do a couple part series, and I'll just put your episodes back to back when I post them on the podcast side, and that way people can hear the whole testimony. And I know we're a couple minutes early, and Gina was gonna join on, so I don't see her on there yet. So we'll give her a minute. I always like to start a couple minutes early just in case there's a problem, which last night I had one. I was interviewing one of the candidates to be governor, and she couldn't get connected. And then while she was connected, then her power went out, and it turned into a whole thing.
oh
Yeah. So, all right, let's see here. We've got somebody viewing.
a couple of people I saw on my Facebook page were gonna come. I know 3 for sure.
Oh, yeah. Who are the others?
One's name is Becky. She works with me.
Okay.
One name is, I think he's on the T Wade. If it pops up on her Facebook name, it's got T Wade on there.
Okay.
Wade is his last name. Justin might join. Probably a lot more people. Those are the ones that I saw that said going on the thing.
Okay, very nice.
Going. But it was like 27 people that were interested, and I'm pretty sure half of them will.
I love it. So we got Kenny Glass. That's
my best friend.
Oh man, that's awesome. Okay,
man, that's my guy right there. Yeah, we've known each other since we were 8 years old.
So then Wawana says that Wawana is here. So I love it. We'll give it just another minute, and then we'll get started.
Okay, will they be able to hear you?
Yeah, they can
just see me, but hear you.
Yeah, so they can hear both of us. They'll see you, and then when it comes to the podcast, once that episode comes out, it'll actually be a lot more polished, and it'll have cutbacks between you to me with my intro and all that other stuff going on.
Okay.
I just like to let people hear the whole thing if they want to while it's live and happening. Sometimes you get interesting things like you did last night. Oh, we got a couple more that joined. All right. Well, if we want to get started, so my name is Brandon Burley. This is the Redemption Project, and Derrick, I've heard a lot of good stuff about your testimony, and I'm excited to hear it firsthand from you. So if you don't mind, kind of take us back to the very beginning. What happened? What's the big picture? And then how'd you get to where you are now?
Okay. Well, actually, the very, very beginning, I always start with childhood, just to say that most people that have the background that I have now, did have it's a sort of broken home in there or something like that. I didn't have that issue. I had both parents in the house. My mother and father were in the house. Steady work, jobs. We had a nice childhood. At age 12, my father passed away on my birthday.
I'm sorry.
And I think that was probably the start of where a lot of change happened just within the family period. The family just sort of started to separate a lot. There's myself and 3 other brothers that I've got. It bothered my mom a lot, and we ended up moving, and it was sort of just, everybody was on their own, sort of doing their own thing. So we lived around Lonsdale area.
Okay.
My grandmother lived in Mechanicsville, so I would always really go over there. So that was really where I hung out at and really stayed. I went to school over there in that area and everything. So I would always just gravitate back towards that area anyway, on my own. Riding bikes or whatever, I would always kind of be in that area. With touching on points, I know we're pressed for time, so just to outline what I went through as far as with my life struggles period. First, yes, there was a murder charge.
How old were you when that happened?
I was 16 years old when that happened.
So what's kind of the short version there? What happened?
Drug deal.
Okay.
Drug deal bad. Yeah, the drug deal went horribly wrong. It was not a right drug deal, but it turned out for the worst. Just being in the streets, being infatuated with guns, was able to get my hands on a few of them, and always ended up keeping one around. This night, it went
so
terribly south.
Was that in Lonsdale?
No, that was in the Ville. That was in Mendocino.
Okay, so
yeah.
Did you end up getting convicted of that murder case?
I was charged as an adult. I was given 22 years for that, 8 years for attempted murder. They ran them together. And I did 10 years on it. Made it out on parole. Stayed out 3 years. Violated that. Went back for a year and a half. Stayed out another 2.5 years. Violated and went back for another year and a half till I flattened the sentence.
So when you got out the first time after, what was that, 10 years, what year was that?
2004.
2004.
Okay. In 94, yeah.
And then you flattened it when?
2011.
Okay, so during that time, from 1994 to 2011, did you have religion? Did you do any programs while you were in jail? Like, what did life look like for you?
Man, life in prison, in those days in prison, there, a lot of the programs that are around now didn't exist. You know, a lot of the stuff that you see now, they implemented it in because prisoners were coming out without anything. They almost didn't have a choice.
Derrick, I think we're losing you. You froze on us. For those of you listening in, give us just a minute here. Let's see if we can get him back. Oh, are you back?
Okay. Yeah, I have no clue what happened.
That's okay. Right, man, that's the part of being live, right? Sometimes things happen, and later on, it'll get polished up for the podcast. All right, so no worries. So, 94 when you went in, you said there was not a lot of programs or anything that were available.
There wasn't any. You just did time. That's pretty much what it was. During the part when I was out beforehand, there was a lot of neighborhood type games. So you did a lot of things around the neighborhood. You were outside the neighborhood with your friends that weren't good. But when I went in, that's when things sort of got more official as far as gangs came. So gangs came into play in my life.
Okay, so you became a
yeah. And it was just pretty much that's all we did was bang, smoke weed, and just do time. That's what it was. There wasn't programs in. You didn't have to go to school in prison then. Like no one cared in prison. You just did your time. So when I came out, when I did make parole, of course spiritually none of that was there. But I do have stories of, like I said, we're pressed on time. I do have stories in retrospect of seeing how the Lord was there. Certain things that did transpire during those 10 years that I can look back on and see that, okay, that's when he was knocking at those times. You know what I mean? I just went here and just do it with pride.
I'd love to hear one of those.
Okay. They would have these Christmas banquets, parties. People from the outside would come in. This is the one that stands out really the most. And so the group came in, it was maybe like 30, 40 people. I'm sitting towards the back, and we had our tags on. They gave us tags, name tags, so the people, identified when they come in, they could speak to us. And so my last name was on mine. And when we were getting out the food, I went through the line and I put it on my plate and came down to the end. And there was these 4 group of ladies at the end, and they saw my name tag and they were like, Westfield. It's like, are you? My mother is well known in the community. She's a whole 10-hour story by herself. So they were like, you're Derrick Westfield. And they took me behind the table and they were just sitting there and they were talking. And one of them she just grabbed my hand. She said, you know what, I feel you need this. And the Spirit's just telling me that you need this. And at the time, I'm not spiritually grounded in any kind of way. I'm just looking at her and I'm like, okay, cool. You want to pray? She grabbed my hand real tight and she just started praying. And the rest of them started praying. They're laying hands on me and I mean, it was a real nice experience. I mean, I really remember it as something that, I took seriously when I bowed my head and I closed my eyes at that moment. It was actually literally a feeling that I never felt in that moment. And I remember going back to the cell after it was over and sat down on the bed. They gave me a lot of little pamphlets and stuff that they had. They brought some extras that they didn't give out to everyone. But they gave me a couple of them. One gave me like this little mini. It was almost like a Bible. It has a lot of scriptures in it from the Bible. And I flipped it open. And I really didn't go to the first page. I just flipped it open. And I remember there was some notes in there speaking on just about the change. And there was a lot of things like for instance, Proverbs 13:11. Wealth gained by dishonesty will diminish. That was one thing that was one of my biggest bondages was money. That's where pretty much everything that transpired happened because of my greed and love of money. That stood out so deep because in her prayer, she also said that to me. She didn't know me from anything. She just spoke about, and this love of money that he has, and this. So when I went back and I flipped it open, and I read that. I mean, it really hit me. But like always, it was kind of in the moment, and then the next thing came up. Now, I'm out the door, and that's gone. But at the same time, it's like a seed planted.
So do you think, not to go too far down that rabbit hole, but have you seen any of those ladies since you've been out?
I haven't. I couldn't remember what they looked like. I really can't. I don't remember the church that was there.
That's amazing, though, that you remember the prayer.
Like 96. Yeah, I remember the prayer deeply. That was definitely a seed plant. That was definitely something that the beginning. The seed was planted before then. You as a kid, you're going to church with your family, but you're just going because you have to go.
Yeah.
Of course, and of course, with me having, like I said, a stable house home with the family, there was also not spiritual seed planted in there, but it's also just the seed planted of being raised into a young man. So I had that going, and then this comes in. But that was the first time I actually had, I think, what I say, an encounter with the spirit, period, as far as personally.
Remembering the message and not the messenger, and I love that. Okay, so then we fast forward a little bit. When you are out after the first time in 04, before you flattened it, were there any other encounters that sent you maybe some spiritual ideas, or was it just back to the life and we were doing affiliated work and bouncing in and out of prison?
No, I definitely went back straight back to the life. We wasn't even going back because I never stopped. It was ongoing, so I definitely came out to that, and it was on a much more higher level, if I can say it in that way.
Yeah. So you moved up in rank.
Just that, and just other things of street things that would come to you. So a lot of that came too. But on the other side of we were talking about spiritual things, there was when I did violate. I'm saying the first violation that occurred. I went back. The encounter that happened in there. Let me know flat out that okay, the spirit is on you again. He allowed you to come back here for this reason instead of having you down the streets. He chose to put you back in this place again. Allowed you to come back in this place. As soon as I went in and they shipped me to the first prison where you go to read class, a guy came through the door. And everything he said was in direct line with how I lived. His name was even Derrick. He came in, he got on the table, and he screamed out to who weren't allowed to come out. And he was like, man, they call me Brother Derrick, and I used to be this, I was affiliated with this, and this is this. And, I'm listening to him at the door, and I'm listening to him. Actually, getting a little teary-eyed listening to him. And, he spoke what he spoke, he preached, and he prayed, and he started walking around. He went to the first cell when he came up the steps. I was at the top. He went to the first cell, and he said something to that guy. And then he walked all the way around, and then stopped at any other cell. And he passed mine, and then he came back, and I was sitting on the floor. My cellmate was on the bed. I was sitting on the floor next to the door so I could hear him. And he kind of tapped on the window. And he said, I see you down there. And he looked up. I looked up and stood up, and he started speaking to me in that moment. He was like, man, you know what? The first time he started, just he started confessing things to me, like positive things over my life. And I looked at that was just something else that you skipped all these rooms. And then you passed mine, and then you double back, and you came to me, and you sent me, and you saw me down there. I mean, so that's just one thing. Another thing, okay, the Spirit sent him to speak life into me at that moment. And during that whole time of being in that violation of, I was settled down. I started getting into the Word, started reading a little more, started going in church a little more, started watching sermons on TV. So that's when that part of life started, this first transformation.
What year do you think that was?
That was 2006, 7. See, I went back in 6. I think it was like 7.
Okay. Also, as a quick side note, Holly wants to tell you that she's at work. She can't watch right now, but she wanted to let you know that she is so proud of you and thankful that your paths have crossed. Hopefully she can watch it later, and she's praying God continues to bless you and use your story for his glory.
That's good. I'm a good friend with her husband too. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. So, and I couldn't agree more that I continue to pray that God will bless you and use your story for His glory, because what we're hearing already is amazing, and kind of have an idea of where it's going to head to is even better. So we've got 2007. You're starting to get into the Spirit a little bit more, but you don't go flat until 2011. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, I got out and I went back. I flattened the front end there. I had another violation.
Okay.
Yeah. So and this one, after I got out, of course, you get out and temptation's right back in your face, and I gravitated right back to what I was doing, and the mentality is you can do the same thing, but I'm gonna do it smarter, which is ridiculous. I mean, I'm going to do it smarter. I can do it this way. I can do this, and I can do this, and of course, there's just the enemy, just this devil, just putting it in your head. Yeah, you can do it this way, and it'll work out better this way. Just do it. Just keep this out of your life, put this in your life, and you fall for it. You go for it. So yeah, I was right back in the selling. I was right back in doing everything that I had going on. And this one particular day, there was a fight that broke out in the home that I was involved in, and as I was running. There was a door that was glass, but it was painted over, and it looked like a plain door, which I knew there was glass in there, but in the fit of rage, you don't think about that. So he ran through it and pushed it to try to close himself in, and I knocked it open with one arm, and went straight through it with this arm, and I jerked it out. There was a split that hit my face, and I turned my wrist over, and I could see the bone. I completely severed my artery, and blood was just gushing out everywhere. I'm holding it. People in the home start calling 911. They came, they ran in. They thought I got shot. There was so much blood everywhere.
Wow.
I rushed to the hospital, put on the table. They do their surgery. After I'm in the room upstairs, the doc comes in. He was like, he said, I would have gave you probably another 90 seconds max, and you would have bled out.
Wow.
I'm hearing that, and it hits me. And he also said, he was like, he looked at me, and there's a nurse right next to him. He was like, just change it. And he was like, your life, just change it. Now I remember that. Don't remember his name, don't remember his face, nothing, but that stuck out to me as other things have too. You know what I mean? He was like, just change it. He was like, look at your hand. And you couldn't even see the separation between my fingers. It looked like boxing. Look. And so, but in that instance too, that's when I went back to prison. So I was violated from that. From that incident that happened, that violence in the home, I was taken from the hospital to jail with bandages and everything. So I went to prison in that state. And this time, and going on that violation is when, on my own accord, really, I started really reading more and just studying more, and got more into writing poems. I write poems and poetry and spoken word poetry. I started really doing a lot of writing then. I started doing a lot of journaling too, and was mainly getting off into doing my own praying. And it got to the point where a lot of guys would see me pray, and there were three guys that not together, but one by one, it just would come up to me and ask me questions, and then they started hanging around me, and then we were speaking, then we started having a Bible study, and then what I mean. So the Spirit was definitely on me then. To speak life. I mean, now this other thing is coming out, because one thing to explain about myself, going back just a little bit younger days, if one thing you would never hear anybody say to me is, he's going to end up in prison one day. I mean, he's going to do, that was not my character back then. You know what I mean? Anything they probably would say, I would have been a ventriloquist or something, because all I ever talked. You know what I mean? So I was real introverted, just really stayed to myself a lot. Had a couple of friends, and I just did it that way. So when, in this moment, when it came to me really speaking, that's all I want to talk about, which is what I'm reading in the Bible and the words. It was nothing but spirit led. You know what I mean? And people were gravitating towards me. And then it got to the point where they wanted to come out and have these Bible studies. They come to my room. We're gonna do this today, and get in the spirit. So I did that the whole time and got out. And of course, you don't keep, like one guy used to say, man, when a banana gets separated from the bunch, it gets peeled. And that's exactly what happened in my case. I got out. I'm back in life. I got to get a job. I have to do this. I have to do this. It's that catch-up mentality that happens with a lot of people. You're behind. You fight, especially if your first time going in. Or you've been in. You went in and you lost whatever you had. You feel like you need to get that back, so you start trying to get that back. In my case, I worked a job, but I also gravitated back to what I started doing in the beginning, which was drugs, selling. You know what I mean? And that crashed down. when I was poured over 1.5 years later. I flattened that sentence, actually. That's when I already flattened the sentence. When I came out, it was I was no parole, it didn't matter. It was kind of like, really in my mind, it was like, I'm cool. I can kind of do what I want to do now because I don't have this over my head. You know what I mean? This shadow over my head of people watching over me. So I was really, really engulfed in it then, really just out there with it. Ended up getting pulled over, had enough in the car to have me charged again and given a 12-year sentence at 100%.
Wow. What range were you?
Range?
Yeah. Do you know if you were range 2, range 3, or
2?
You're a range 2 offender?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So they gave you 12 at 100, and were you eligible for good time?
No, you didn't get any good time.
No
you
good.
didn't, the only time you get it, it was ran just like the feds do. You get just that certain amount, and then the cap's off at that, so which is nothing, maybe like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like monthly good time, no.
So you go back in, what year is this now? 2012?
It was, yeah. It's 12, 13, 12, 13.
Okay, so 2012, 2013, you go back in. So at this point, you've had a couple spiritual encounters while you're in jail. Or prison the last time, excuse me. You really started to find God. You got back out on the street, kind of lost your way again. Do you go straight back to prison, or do you spend time in jail first before you get back to prison?
Yeah, since I flattened out, you don't get violated. When you get violated, you go straight back to prison. Since I had already flattened that sentence, it was a whole new charge, so I went to the county jail, and that whole process started over. So I was in the county jail for 10 months, and this is where really just the whole transformation happened. So I'm putting the cell, and I'm put directly behind the pole where the TV was, and I could not see the TV. So it was just me in the cell by myself. They wouldn't give me a mat for 2 weeks for whatever reason. I didn't have a mat. It was really just at the bottom. Even the bucket they gave me, they didn't let me out the cell. I couldn't come out the cell. Even the bucket they gave me had all your property in it. You didn't have soap. You know what I mean? It just a lot of things that didn't have that was frustrating. And I'm sitting there and I'm mad for the first 2 days, and then honestly I went through a breakdown period of just because I'm thinking back now like. I'm about to go out there for a long time. I know I'm about to go for a long time. Again, like I'm about to go back. And my age is popping up. And actually, my daughter was just born. And she was, at that time, she was 2 years old. So I did have a daughter when I flattened out the last time. So she was almost 2 years old. So I'm thinking about her. And then, sort of hard to explain unless you went through it. But it was just immediately waterworks 24/7. Wash and clean. That's really what it was. And things are coming back to the mind that I did my whole lifespan that I've completely forgotten about. And I just immediately just started repenting for them. And that went on for 3 or 4 weeks. And I'm in there, like I said, I'm in there, and they wouldn't give books, couldn't have books. And here's another thing that kind of stood out. That made me really believe in prayer more. That really just show me how prayer works. I was in there one night, and I'm praying like I want something to read. I asked the Lord, "Look, can you give me some books?" And he said, "Well, next time they come around, probably be maybe a week or so, I'll make sure you get one. You've been here and you've been asking for a book." Right? So I'm in there, and I'm sitting there. I said a little prayer, and I'm praying again. So I sit down in the bed, and I hear the door open. I get up and look, and I see the guy come in. He has his little cart. He comes in. He has this little satchel, little short satchel. I watched him. He went to one of the cells on the bottom. And he walked around, he went to another cell, then he walked upstairs, and he went to another cell. Then he walked back downstairs, and he was talking to the CEO, and he's holding something, and he started to leave, and he just kind of looked around, and he came upstairs, walked around, and he came to my door, and he tapped it. I sat back down this time, too. He tapped the window, and he held up a Bible. It was just a Bible. And he pointed at it like, "Yeah." And he go out, open the door, and he gave me that Bible. Still have that Bible in here. I've had that Bible since that Bible. The first thing when I flipped it open, it went to Romans 8, and that was the first teaching. You know how you can read something and you just know what you're reading.
Yeah.
Everything in there is being explained to you spiritually. Is being you know exactly what you're reading. That I had that encounter, and then from that moment on, it was just steadfast of confirmation. I couldn't get enough. That's all I wanted to do. That's all I was doing. Again, started another little Bible group while we were in there. Had one little guy that was just really want asking questions and want a lot of prayer for everything. We started doing that and started prayer listening. We started doing a lot of things. And this time when I did, get my time, I went to prison. It continued on. And as soon as I went, actually the first thing he had me do when I did ended up coming out the cell was the United States gang. So there was a lot of guys in there that knew me and were still a part of that in whatever section that they were. And that's the first thing I did was like, look, don't call me this. You know what I mean? Just call me by my name. You know what I mean? Don't call me that. I'm done with that. That's the first thing that I felt the Spirit had me wanted me to do. Let that go, let that identity go. Because I've been wrapped up in that identity for so many years now. And that's how I lived. You know what I mean? That's who I was.
Did that make prison harder when you got back to it?
No, I thought it would, but there was another test that he allowed me to go through. Honestly, when I first got there, there was some guys that knew me, and then I told them what was going on. There was actually another guy who was sort of up. He sent for me to come to the ball field, and I went up. When I went up, I saw a group of maybe like 8 or 9 younger guys on the side, and when we started walking, and as soon as we did, he just said, "Man, so what's up? What's going on?" And I immediately it was just from there. Again, it wasn't even me speaking. I'm telling him that it was the Spirit speaking. Period. To the point where he just stopped walking and was like, "Man, look, I'm trying my best to get where you at." He said, like, "Man, I want to do that." He said, "I don't know how to let this go. So I don't know how to get out of it." And he said, and we started walking some more, and I was like, "What's up with them?" Because I can speak body language. I know what's going on. I've been here for a long time. But I said, "What's going on with them?" He said, "They was up here to get you."
Wow.
You know what I mean? Well, you know, it was, and in that moment, you know what I mean? I just kind of looked. He said, "Man, that's not about to happen." He's like, "Look, we can come up here and walk and talk. I mean, really, I would love to get where you at. I mean, it didn't really happen that way, but we did. When we met up, it was always the questions of something spiritual. That's all they wanted to talk to me about. And so that was another confirmation of how, you know, the Lord is with you. Take your steps everywhere you go once you rely on Him and you put all your trust and your faith in Him. He got you. You know what I mean? He kept me from that. I didn't have to go through that situation that a lot of people would go through getting out of something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then how does that work while you're in this last time and you're doing 100%? Do you find any programs now, or is it your Bible study only, or how's that working?
Yeah, actually, I actually got my associate degree from Northeast State.
Congratulations.
They graded the professors, everybody that came in. I did that. For the programs, I did go to programs, but they service, the bilingual service effectively. One of the guys came to me and he
Hey, Derrick, hang on 1 second. I think we're losing some connection here. I'm not sure if it's on your end or my end, but it's starting to sound really staticky.
I could hear it.
You could hear it too?
I think it's...
All right, let's try it now. Nope, it's still doing it.
Yeah, I mean, when you speak, sometimes I hear it and it's a bit strange.
Interesting. Okay. Let's do this. Let's take a pause for a second. I'm gonna have you to exit out of the Zoom and then come back into it, and let's see if that fixes the problem.